The amended version in front of us tonight. Can I get a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is adopted. Next up, we have approval of the minutes, 2 sets in front of us. First up, workshop meeting minutes of August 14th, 2024. Council members, any changes or corrections? I'll look for motion.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Final comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those minutes are adopted. Next up, we have regular meeting minutes from August 14th, 2024. Council members, any changes or corrections? I'll look for motion.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Final comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the regular meeting minutes from August 14th are approved. Next up, we will move into public hearings. We have one in front of us tonight, the Helmo Station Plan Unit Development Amendment. City Planner Luke McClanahan, welcome. Would you like to walk us through this?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yes, for this planned unit development amendment, it is specific to the property address 390 Helmo Avenue. So this is at the southwest quadrant of Helmo Avenue and 4th Street. It's located on the northern end of the Helmo Station PUD area near the border of the Oak Run Shores neighborhood. So the zoning of this site is Helmo Station PUD. Currently, the property is about 3 acres. It's a vacant site, and it's designated for high-density multifamily development, and it does have to comply with specific performance criteria. So the purpose of this specific request is brought forth by the applicant in order to amend the PUD and allow the maximum height of multifamily, a multifamily building to go from 3 stories to 4 stories. And this request is tied to a planned 133-unit multifamily apartment building on the property, which will be considered at a later time in terms of the site plan review, the more technical review as we're familiar with. So here, again, just I want to reiterate the developer is looking to receive approval for the specific PUD amendment, again, going from 3 stories to 4 stories, prior to pursuing the site plan approval. I do want to note that allowing the additional story for the building would not increase the density of the site as the developer proposes keeping the apartment building within the allowed density of the Helmo Station PUD. And just a little bit of background there, the existing 3-story limit for the building for this parcel was originally intended to provide a bit of a visual buffer or a smaller visual footprint rather as a transitional space between the existing Oak Run Shores neighborhood and the Helmo Station area. And in exchange for the flexibility for going up 1 more story in height, the developer is proposing to have a larger setback from the northern lot line in order to reduce the visual footprint of the building. So the required setback is 30 feet currently, and they're proposing the building to be set back 40 feet. So this request was heard by the Planning Commission as a public hearing item back on August 1st, and I just want to address a couple concerns that were brought up during that meeting. First, in regards to stormwater and floodplain, the developer will need to obtain permits through the watershed district for stormwater provisions, and overall the preliminary site design appears to be consistent with the original Helmo Station plan in terms of managing stormwater and runoff. For traffic impacts, staff has included a condition of approval in the ordinance that you'll see, and that is to require the developer to update the original traffic study that was done for the Helmo Station area. In regards to noise, this is just a bit of a reminder, if anything, it's that construction activities related to the apartment building, when that occurs, construction activity just has to be in compliance with our noise ordinance. Again, I just want to reemphasize that the request before the council tonight is strictly for going from 3 stories to 4 stories on this particular parcel. It doesn't affect any other parcels in the Helmo Station area. Again, the developer will have to come back for site plan review and approval. And with that, staff recommends approval of the PUD amendment to raise the maximum height allowed from 3 stories to 4 stories for the property in question, as detailed in the staff report on file. And staff recommends approval of the request subject to 6 conditions, and I am referencing ordinance number 929 that is in the packet. So the first condition is that the apartment building shall be set back a minimum of 40 feet from the northern property line. Number 2, a view shed analysis shall be reviewed and submitted and reviewed at the time of the site plan to understand the visual appearance of the 4-story building from the neighboring residential property. Number 3, the 4-story building shall incorporate varying roof lines and articulations. Number 4, the developer shall install additional landscaping north of the apartment building and in between the apartment building and the frontage for 4th Street. The landscaping screening will be reviewed at the time of site plan. Number 5, the developer must update the Helmo Station traffic study to the satisfaction of the city engineer. And number 6, satisfaction of park dedication requirements in accordance with the city's adopted fee schedule. So as a reminder, this is a public hearing, and the developer is here in attendance if you have questions. Otherwise, staff is happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Council members, any questions for Luke? I have a few, if I may. Luke, does the PUD define or quantify stories? So I'm a bit surprised that we are, in the PUD, we're saying 4 stories instead of putting a maximum height on the overall building. Because I guess, stories could change, 12-foot ceilings versus 20-foot ceilings, It seems like the PUD is saying regardless of how tall those stories are, 4 is the max. Well, that has a big impact on sight lines and all of that. So is there something in the PUD that caps or quantifies or limits stories by height?
I'm fairly certain of this, Mayor, but the PUD does not go into how tall an individual story is. It just has that 3-story limit for this particular area in the properties that front 4th Street.
But then doesn't that condition of, a site plan or the sight lines, isn't that subjective and a bit irrelevant if we don't know what the actual height of the building is going to be if it's not being defined or limited?
Well, Mayor, if I may.
No, I'd like Luke to answer my question first.
Yes, Mayor, to your question, I believe that's in regards to the view shed analysis then?
Yep.
So, in a sense, we did receive quite a bit of the information for the view shed analysis with this submittal. There's elevations, there's the shadow study, kind of delaying the view shed analysis, the full-blown view shed analysis to the time of site plan allows the developer to get a little bit more creative in terms of architecture. And as staff is recommending that one condition for varying roofline articulations, just incorporating some design elements to help soften up that appearance of being a little bit more imposing as a 4-story building, as well as the landscaping as well.
Councilmember Ingebrigtsen.
Okay, yeah, and my question, to your point, would just simply be, does state law define minimum or maximum that a story can be? Does it clearly define what a story is?
Councilmember, I guess I'm not quite well-versed on building code. We can certainly look into that or consult our building inspection staff, but.
Okay.
My comment to that would be, when we laid out the BRTOD plan for this entire area, the logic was we wanted to limit heights along 4th Street because of the direct impacts on the properties across the street. In hindsight, we said 2 stories for a different parcel to the east, but, and it has opened that question of, well, what is a story? I mean, that can change pretty dramatically, and if we're making one condition, I guess that would be also a condition of the site plan approval, which would be the next step at a future meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, of that view shed, or what was the term you used?
View shed analysis.
View shed. It seems like anything we create in that, or that is created in that view shed analysis is a bit subjective and irrelevant if we're not saying like this is the absolute maximum that it can be, So I'm having a little trouble there if we aren't putting a firm cap on it other than 4 stories, which we're saying stories is entirely subjective and flexible. That seems like a challenge. So maybe I'll set that aside for now. But my other question is, you mentioned that the site plan is, attached to this, or this amendment is attached to the site plan. We have a specific project that's being proposed. That's why we're going through this amendment process. If this project does not move forward for whatever reason, does the PUD revert back to the previously adopted language, or does this amendment remain in place even though this amendment is being attached to the site plan that that has been presented already?
So, Mr. Mayor, if the council decides to approve the amendment, then this would run with the land.
Okay, so that would be the standard going forward. Okay. Council members, anybody else have any questions for Luke?
Yeah, just, well, and Mayor, maybe just a comment to a comment you had made. You know, when you talked about when we had initially looked at this and restricted it to, was it 2 stories?
The eastern parcel, yeah.
Yeah.
2 stories along the street.
You know, and what's hard for what's hard for all of us to know when that decision is initially made is the economic reality of what a developer is going to need to do to make any project economically feasible. You know, and I guess my point is, I'm going to be voting yes on this, but I'm not doing that arbitrarily. I'm doing it because it is important for me as an elected official to make sure that, you know, property is getting developed in a timely manner and in a way that is economically feasible for a developer. So just wanted to make that point.
No, I think that's a good point. You know, and I would just, maybe this is a question for Luke, what would be the downside in putting a maximum height on a building? I know as a city, we've done it, we did it for many years when, you know, we didn't have a ladder truck that could support, it didn't really matter how many stories it was a maximum height that we could provide emergency services to, you know, so we have a long history of that. What would be the downside of applying that standard here? And then that number becomes what we use for that view shed analysis.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think that maybe the downside there would just be restricting the developer to, you know, a very rigid set of plans, you know, not being able to deviate, or if they did find out that their plans would require something a little bit higher than, or a taller building, then they would have to come back before the council again to get to seek some type of variance or deviation.
But isn't that assuming that that cap is set at, you know, what their current plan is? I mean, so if their current plan is saying, and the view shed analysis that we have or will have is 40 feet, you know, couldn't council say 46 feet? You know, 15%, you know, variance just to provide residents across 4th Street some peace of mind knowing that it's not gonna end up being 60 feet. Because if it fits within 4 stories, regardless of the height, well, that's what the ordinance says. It seems like that's a challenge, you know, especially given how much work we've put into, you know, working with the neighborhoods to cap those heights along 4th Street. I mean, I'm not saying we put it right at 40 feet, but isn't there some leeway that we can bake in that satisfies the needs and flexibility of a developer, but also, you know, responding to the concerns that adjacent neighbors might have?
Mr. Mayor, I suppose you know, that there could be like the amendment allows 4 stories, no greater than X number of feet, you know?
I believe that's what we've done in the past, and so I was a little surprised when I didn't see that standard similarly applied here, and that's how we got down this rabbit hole. And is this the spot for that, or is it the site plan approval process that would be spelled out?
I might have to defer to Andy if I'm overstepping where I'm at right now.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I think this would be the time to do it, Mr. Mayor, with given the PUD, the request is in front of you, and the ability for the developer to comment and members of the public to comment as well.
And Mayor, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've got the developer here, so we're having this conversation. It'd be nice if the developer could come and speak to the height of the building and where it lands in relation to other typical buildings.
Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Matt Yetzer with MWF Properties, 7645 Lindale Avenue South in Richfield. Thank you, Mayor Zabel and Council. It's good to see you all again. Yeah, so a 4-story residential building, you know, pretty typically you're going to have 9 to 10 foot ceilings. For a 100% residential building, it's not really economically feasible, nor does it make much sense to differentiate from that much. So with 4 stories, that's about 40 feet, and then you add some truss space, and the roof line, it ends up being about 45, 46 feet, or plus or minus for a 4-story flat roof building. Another thing to consider is the pitch of the roof. You know, we're proposing a flat roof building here, which lessens that height impact slightly as well. So I wouldn't say, I mean, I certainly understand the point about, you know, maybe if it was more of a commercial use or warehouse or industrial use that had 20-foot ceilings and they wanted to stack some on top of it, it could get kind of thrown out of whack. For a residential building, I don't anticipate that happening. It's pretty standard because of, structural standards for cost efficiency, that you're going to be in that 9 to 10 range unless you have some sort of, for 100% residential, unless you have some sort of commercial or office space. So that's where we would expect this to land. I don't have a specific number. We haven't gotten to that level of planning yet, but that's kind of what I expect.
So Matt, if the city council said not greater than 50, would MWF have concerns about that?
No, I anticipate we could do a 4-story flat roof building under 50 feet. We, similar to, you mentioned other PUDs in the city, the Tartan Crossing PUD, where we developed the Oakdale Commons project, I recall there being a specific height restriction in that, so maybe it's matched or slightly increased, but that's a 4-story flat roof building that met the height requirement of the Tartan Crossing PUD, which was a specific number. I don't recall what that was at this time, but.
Council members, anybody have any questions for Matt specifically before we go to public hearing? Maybe I'll just take temperature of council if there would be appetite to add not greater than, and then staff can work on that while we go through the public hearing process.
Well, in the end, if that were added, it would still be able, the developers could come forward and propose something different, but it would have to be voted on by the council, right?
Correct.
And to your point, if we're protecting the line of sight and the look of that community, I think that makes sense. I'd be in favor of a 50-foot max.
Anybody down here?
I would be supportive of that as well.
Fine with that.
Jake, thoughts?
I'd be fine with it. And I would actually propose, and I think you had thrown out an arbitrary number 50.
Yeah, based
Would-
on the
Would you be agreeable
46.
to 52? I just want to make sure that
It sounded like the max they would need was 46, so I just rounded to the even.
well,
next
well,
zero.
but I want to make sure that we're,
52 is fine.
I mean,
yeah.
and just say 4 stories or 52 feet.
Not greater than.
Yeah, not greater than 52 feet.
I'm going to look to our community development director and city planner as they're typing furiously back there to figure out what that language looks like and where to insert that. So we will come back to them, yes. So if there's no more questions from council for Luke or Matt, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing to comments from the audience. This is an opportunity for anybody who is joining us to step up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, but you are welcome to share anything that is on your mind. Before I get to that, we did receive one comment or one statement written out with the request that it be read into the record. So I will do that right now. My name is Douglas G. Nelson. I live at 7560 4th Street Lane North, which is a cul-de-sac directly across from the Gold Line BRT and the Helmo Station Plan Unit Development. My home and other homes in my cul-de-sac lie in a FEMA Zone A. I am grateful that Mayor Zabel, City Planner Luke McClanahan, and the city engineering staff have provided my neighbors and I with information demonstrating that our flood risk has not increased due to the Gold Line BRT and Helmo Station Planned Unit Development projects. Again, my neighbors and I are grateful. It is one less significant thing to worry about. However, my neighbors and I do have concerns about the amendment to the city's ordinance number 839 for the Helmo Station PUD. This amendment would allow MWF properties to build multifamily high-density buildings along 4th Street North Frontage to be up to 4 residential stories in height. We have serious concerns about the apartment complex being set back only set back a minimum of 40 feet, as stated in condition number 1. By our calculations, the northernmost apartment building would be only 135 feet from the southernmost twin home building in our cul-de-sac. As our twin homes are only 1 story in height with a low-pitch roof line, a rectangular 4-story apartment complex will dwarf our properties. We also have concerns about condition number 2 through 4 regarding the view shed analysis, the various roof lines with different articulations in the 2 buildings, and the additional landscaping for screening purposes between the northern edge of the high-density multifamily buildings and our cul-de-sac. It is your responsibility to allow us full participation in evaluating and monitoring that the conditions to the amended ordinance number 839 are fully met and achieved. After all, we did not make the changes to this area, you did. Respectfully submitted, Douglas G. Nelson and my neighbors in the 4th Street Lane North cul-de-sac. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to provide additional comments during the public hearing, please feel free to step up to the podium. As I said, start with your name and address for the record and proceed with your comments. Oh, come on, Doug. I just read your
Just have to say publicly, Douglas G. Nelson, thank you so much for hearing us. I know government is a series of compromises, and it's going to change, but thank you for listening to us.
Absolutely.
Signing off.
Thanks, Doug. Please.
Hi, my name is Bob Beadle. I'm a former Washington County Condemnation Commissioner, and I was in that role for over 20 years. I'm a retired real estate broker. I managed 3 different Edina Realty offices during my employment. I want to bring to your attention, as a Condemnation Commissioner, I'm representing Colleen Briggs, who lives at 7540 4th Street Lane North. It's right at the mouth of that cul-de-sac condominium organization. Some of the things that I helped landowners settle disputes between communities such as Oakdale, Woodbury, Stillwater, Bayport, sat on a commission of 3 commissioners, still sit on that commission, I just don't take any cases. But compensable damages that you might want to be aware of, number 1 is noise intrusion. It is a compensable damage. These folks are backup beeping construction equipment 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. There is dirt and dust that infiltrates upon the exteriors of decks. The decks are unusable that face that project during the daytime. All of those intrusions are compensable. You, the city of Oakdale, will likely be brought to court if you can't come to some sort of settlement for those kind of damages. I've witnessed these. I've sat as a commissioner on these hearings, and just wanted to alert you to that. Also, there's been some current sales in that little cul-de-sac area. That establishes value prior to, and in one case, right in the beginning of the work projects that's gone out there. What happens after this project is done is it will be easily established what the value is before, because there's been sales, and after. If there is a difference there between before value, if it goes down, you will be subject to compensating that loss. I'm just telling you from my experience as a condemnation commissioner for Washington County. So you need to be aware of that when you're making these decisions. The noise intrusion, I've heard you talk about it here. It's on record. You're concerned about it. It's also a compensable damage. I don't know what the criteria for large noise barriers are around freeways and highways and that sort of thing, but I think you should consider that, because the noise is not going to stop. It's going to continue, and possibly it'll be different, but there will be noise intrusion. So these are factors that you might want to consider. I haven't seen your city attorney at one of our condemnation commissions, but I've attended 50 to 100 of these commissions as a commissioner, and we have imposed compensation in each and every one of the cases that has come to our commission. Has been resolved with some kind of compensation for the damages that I'm talking about incurring. I want you to be aware of that. I was at your previous, whatever the committee meets before this is called, subcommission or subcommittee, and brought the same items forward. So now it's on record that you know about it when you make your decisions, that any losses that are incurred by these residents that are directly impacted by your decisions are compensable as damages to their properties. So, and you can check that out. Again, I've done this for over 20 years. But just call a Washington County condemnation commissioner, have a discussion with them. You might get me on the phone. I don't know. I've chaired every one of the commissions that I've sat on. And they're commissions of 3 professionals that have background in construction and these kinds of projects. So just wanted to alert you to that. I've also spoken now with the neighborhood in there, so they're aware of it. They know, I know personally, the most effective attorneys that are involved in condemnation proceedings, and I will make recommendations to them on which ones I would recommend. So I don't know if thank you. I just wanted to be more. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the public hearing tonight? Going once, going twice. All right, we are going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back for council consideration. Luke, what did the great minds in the Community Development Department come up with?
Mr. Mayor, so the recommendation, the language there on the agenda, I believe it would read, and I'll just read the full thing here as we understand it, as the council wants to amend it. So waive reading, adopt ordinance number 929 pertaining to the Helmo Station Planned Unit Development to allow multifamily high-density buildings along the 4th Street North frontage to be up to 4 residential stories in height. And this is where we are inserting the new language, comma, not to exceed 50 or 52 feet, whichever the council prefers, in height, comma, subject to conditions.
Okay. Council members, do we have any questions about that? You guys, do you want me to just take this one? I wrote it down.
Might as well.
All right, I'll make a motion waiving and adopt adopt ordinance number 929 pertaining to the Helmo Station Plan Unit Development to allow multifamily high-density buildings along 4th Street North frontage to be up to 4 residential stories in height, not to exceed 52 feet in height, subject to conditions. Luke, did I get that right? All right, I'm saying heads nod. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second, final comments. I'll just make one comment. So, as Luke mentioned before, this is just the first step of this process. Obviously the ordinance guides what happens through the site plan approval process. So there will be future opportunities for feedback. Luke, do we have a date on when site plan approval will come up? Not yet? Nope. But this is by no means the end for this project. I want to say a very big thank you to all the residents along 4th Street, not just for coming tonight, not just for coming to the Planning Commission meeting, but for engaging with this city for my entire 8 years on the city council. I've had many conversations with residents in this neighborhood as well as Oakdale Shores, and a lot of that feedback from our residents have shaped this PUD over the years. And we take it very seriously. We really appreciate it. I'm glad anytime our staff or elected officials can answer very important questions for our residents, pertaining to their property. We take that very seriously. And as this process continues, we'll continue working through concerns raised, questions asked, to get to a desired end result for everybody involved as much as we possibly can.
And Mayor, could I add something real quick,
Yeah,
too?
Councilmember Morcom, please.
Thank you. Oh, and it's feedback that's important to us, right? So that 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. time where construction can take place. At the Planning Commission, it was brought up that on occasion, one of the properties was exceeding that. And we don't necessarily have city staff driving around town at 6 a.m. trying to catch someone working too early. So that feedback's really important. So whenever things happen and when you see an issue, that is important for us to hear and it's important for the city to hear. So we appreciate that. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. We had a motion and second. Any final comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And ordinance 929 as amended is adopted. Next up is open forum. This is an opportunity for people to share whatever's on their mind with us. Before we get to that, we have a few presentations and proclamations to cover. Acorn Awards. I had a script here somewhere. Hang on. They gave me a lot of paper tonight. Acorn Award presentations. Each year, the city accepts nominations to recognize properties in Oakdale that are well-maintained and nicely landscaped. Before I announce this year's winners, I want to thank everybody who took time to submit a nomination and recognize their neighbors. I'd also like to thank the Acorn Award Committee for visiting each nominated property and for selecting the winners in each category. The City Council was able to visit the winning properties 2 weeks ago on August 14th, and they are incredibly impressive. Thank you to our 3 winners for allowing us to visit and showcase their beautiful properties. I will read through all of the winners, and then the City Council will meet the winner in each category for a photo and presenting a certificate. First up is our business commercial category, and this year's winner is Platinum Bank. Platinum Bank is located at 7667 10th Street North and offers a well-maintained, classy, and peaceful environment that blends in with the surrounding nature. The flowering magnolia tree, planters, and natural fountain immediately catch your eye upon arrival. Oh, I was reading through all of them. If I would just follow the script, I would know. I was going to say, are we meeting up front? Our second category is the public category, and this year's winner is Transfiguration Church. The grounds of Transfiguration Church, located at 6133 15th Street North, are pridefully maintained by dedicated volunteers. There is a pretty mix of new annuals and seasoned perennials, as well as native pollinators, making Transfiguration's displays an asset to the community. Our third candidate is the residential category, and this year's winner is the Afonso family. The Afonso family property, located at 7546 Upper 17th Street North, offers a wide variety of hydrangeas, lilies, hostas, vibrant trees, and much more. The property has been beautifully upkept for many years and shows the pride the Afonso family has in their landscaping. Do we have anybody with Platinum Bank joining us here tonight? Wonderful. Would you like to meet us up front? Chris is on picture view. I am. Nice little certificate here for you, and I believe your great vase is still coming. It shipped.
It is.
Who knew it took so long?
It's en route. All right, so, yeah. Workers' comp, no, just kidding. Okay, you guys ready? Ready, set, cheese. Cheese. Perfect, got it.
Thanks for hosting us for our strategic plan a few weeks ago. It was a beautiful space to collaborate and figure out what to do. In 5 years. Next up is Transfiguration Church.
We had all the volunteers that put that garden together. I don't forget about that picture.
Well, it's a beautiful garden.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
You can hold that. I'll just shimmy in.
I have to widen my lens here, hold on a second.
Zoom out.
Okay, let's see. Okay, ready? Cheese. Cheese. Oh, wait, hold on, I got another camera. Yeah, say something else, okay? That's fine. Okay. Oh, we don't need panoramic here. There we go. Okay, ready? Cheese. Okay.
Congratulations. Yep, it is. Absolutely. And Val and Ann, come on up.
Now that that's been online, people can call you to want to rent it out.
Yeah. Ah.
Coming in.
Yeah.
All righty. Ready, set, cheese. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. There you go. That's good, thank you. Ah, I put myself on that thing, my high heels, I know.
Once again, just a big congratulations to all of our winners and all of our nominees. The nominees were all especially beautiful this year, and we know how much pride and joy many residents put into their natural spaces. So thank you to everyone for keeping Oakdale beautiful. We also have 2 proclamations tonight. I just need to get organized here. First up is recognizing Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Sorry, I got something in my eye too. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas suicide is a national public health challenge that causes immeasurable pain among individuals, families, and communities across the country. And whereas more than 800 lives are lost in Minnesota each year. And whereas suicide is a top leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 24. And whereas on average, 135 Americans die by suicide each day, and over 1.5 million attempt suicide each year. And whereas public awareness of this tragic problem is key to preventing further suffering and loss of life. And whereas the risk for suicide can be reduced through awareness, education, and treatment. And whereas everyone in the community can play an important role in preventing suicide and are encouraged to know the signs, find the words, and reach out. And whereas depression is a treatable illness and approximately 80% of people who seek help for depression experience improvement when treated with therapy and/or medication. And whereas support is available by calling the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 or 1-800-273-8255, or the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741. Therefore, I, Kevin Zabel, Mayor of Oakdale, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim September as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the city of Oakdale. We also have a proclamation recognizing Building and Code Professional Appreciation Day. Whereas building and code professionals ensure that all aspects of building code administration, code enforcement, rental housing licensing, and other duties are performed in a timely and professional manner. And whereas building and code professionals devote countless hours keeping up with regulation changes that affect the building and code enforcement industries. And whereas building and code professionals are primarily out in the field where they can encounter rough terrain, heights, depths, narrow spaces, construction equipment and activities, unfavorable weather conditions, irate persons, canines, and other potential hazards. And whereas despite hazards, building and code professionals are fully dedicated to ensuring that buildings are built safe, strong, and secure, and remain safe, strong, and secure. And whereas the city of Oakdale strongly supports the skilled work of its building and code professionals. Therefore, I, Kevin Zabel, Mayor of Oakdale, Minnesota, hereby proclaim September 1st as Building and Code Professional Appreciation Day in the city of Oakdale. Anybody that has driven through our city in the last few years and has seen cranes or development or any bit of growth in our community, all of that, our building and code professionals have a very important role in that growth and development. So to Greg Brady and everybody on his team, a big thank you to the incredible work that they do in our city every single day. We are still under open forum, so if there's anybody in the audience that would like to, as I said, step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and share anything on your mind, please feel free. All we ask is you start with your name and address and 3 minutes or so. Welcome.
Timothy Rick, 6617 53rd Street, North Oakdale. My concern is Northdale Park. I live on 6617 53rd Street, which is a dead-end cul-de-sac. A lot of traffic because people miss that park. 99% of that park is used by Asians it can't be from the city. It's got to be from everywhere. And if maybe put a sign up in their language or something where that park is. Nobody knows where that park is. And they're constantly going down our road. On a Saturday and Sunday, you're talking probably 40 extra cars going down that road because they miss the park. It's a bad sign that is at that park. I am assuming they get paid to use that park. Am I right? Do they? I mean, they pay to use that park? Is there a fee to use the park?
The only thing in our parks that requires a fee are like picnic shelter rentals.
Well, they're all at the shelter rentals, so it's used, so maybe they could take some of that money and put a sign up there that is useful. I mean, because right now, they miss that park totally. I mean, maybe a sign before the sign that the park entrance is so far away. Because our roads, I think it was 18 years ago, our roads were done, and nothing has been done to them roads since. No rock, tar put on with rock, nothing. You know, and you guys are gonna come back in a few years and go, we want, I don't know what it costs now, per house for, I think it was $3,200 back then. I don't know what it is now. But I think we can stop a lot of that from happening if we put a proper sign out there where that park is. I mean, there's a lot of room where the hockey rink is there to put signs. And it's just constant traffic going by there, even during the week, because there's volleyball back there every night. You know, I want to take care of our properties, you know, our roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Administrator Volkers, could you have Public Works just look and see what the sign pattern is around the park? Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak under open forum tonight? All right, we're going to move into consensus motions. Council members, in front of us, we have A through G as presented. I am going to remove item A for individual consideration. Are there any others that council members would like to remove for individual consideration? Can I get a motion for B through, what did I just say? G as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve consensus motions B through G as presented.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second, final comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And, oh, that was an echo. B through G are approved as presented. I'm pulling item A for individual consideration. This is a development agreement between the City of Oakdale and Companion Animal Care. I'm pulling this to reserve my right to vote no on this, consistent with my previous votes on the site plan and conditional use permit related to this development item. So just want to reserve my right to vote separately on this. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve consensus motion A as presented.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, final comments?
Yeah, if I could.
Councilmember Morcom.
Thank you very much. So one of the changes, as I understand it, to this companion animal care is there's a reduction in the square footage of this property, which meant that it no longer required a sprinkler system. Is that correct? And if I can call on real quick, Fire Chief, I'm curious if you know off the top of your head in the past 15 years how many commercial buildings have been built without a fire suppression system in them?
Chief Wold, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't believe any commercial buildings off the top of my head that have been built without a fire suppression system in them since City Council adopted 1306, which is the fire sprinkler requirements that we did 15 years ago.
And as a follow-up question, I mean, the difference between a 2,000 square foot building and a 1,950, it doesn't substantially change the risk to fighting a fire at that property, right?
Correct.
Correct. So thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. And for that reason, I think I would be voting no on this as well, if it's the only commercial building in Oakdale without a fire suppression system.
Just to clarify though,
Councilmember Ingebrigtsen, we'll go to you first and then come over to Councilman Willenbring, if that works. He had said something first.
Perfectly fine.
Jake?
I just want to clarify with the city administrator and the city attorney that they are within city code, correct?
Yes.
I mean, you know, you could argue they may not be within the spirit of the city code, but they are legally within city code, correct?
So I'll defer to our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my understanding of this is when they originally presented their concept plan, they did have a building that did not, that was over 2,000 square foot and therefore would have required sprinkling system. But the application that you acted on, not sure if it was the last meeting or the one before, but for the site plan, that building was below 2,000 square feet and therefore did not require a sprinkling system. The sprinkling system is part of the building code. And state law preempts cities when regulation building code, you can't change those regulations. So the the building as presented does comply with the building code. So perhaps none of the commercial buildings that have been built were less than 2,000 square feet, which is what I'm assuming, or else they would have had to require a sprinkling system. So let me go on just a little bit further. The item that's on tonight's agenda was approval of the development agreement. If there's a majority of the council that wants to relook at the actual land use approval, we would need to do that. Because the development agreement that's before you was the city's standard development agreement. There haven't been any major changes to it, just, like, put in letters of credit amount and stuff like that. But it's the standard city development agreement. So if there's a majority of the council that's interested in reconsidering its previous approval, we would need to know that, because that's a different process than approval of the development agreement.
So just to clarify then, oh, sorry.
Actually, Councilmember Willenberg's on the floor next.
No, all I was going to say was obviously what Jim just said. It's the law. It's the code, it's the law, and they're following it. And so what you're suggesting is taking a small business who's following the law and the code and saying no anyway. That's what you're suggesting. They're following the laws, our codes, our requirements, everything. And you're still going to say no.
Well, if I can clarify real quick, and that was my question, so I don't have to like the circumstance, but I'm obligated to honor the code, of course, which is what I voted to, or agreed to uphold when I took this office, which is fine. I don't have to like every development that comes through, but really it would be a matter of whether or not we change the larger land use agreement, which is a separate conversation. Is that correct, Attorney?
Yes, the item before you tonight is a development agreement.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, even though I'm concerned about the public safety staff that may be at risk for having a commercial building without a suppression system, if it's in our code as allowed at this point, then it sounds as though my hands are tied. So thank you for that clarification. I thought that was important.
Jim, what is the vehicle or the timing or the process to on a motion to reconsider a CUP?
On a motion to reconsider the previous action on this matter, it would probably not, motions to reconsider can only be brought up at certain times. And without waiving the rules, that time's probably expired. But there are other vehicles, for example, on the Roberts rules, a motion to rescind. There are other mechanisms that can be used to change a previous action of the city council. In this case, I think it would probably be a motion to rescind the previous approval and then take a new action on it. And which, of course, is not on the agenda tonight, but I think that'd be the proper way to go.
Jake, did you?
Yeah, and I would like to acknowledge, Chief, the concerns that you have, and, but unfortunately, we're in a situation, we don't have the authority to proceed state law, and but I do want to acknowledge that, well aware that you have some concerns there, so.
Yeah, I mean, the code specific is 2,000 square feet. So anything over requires a sprinkler system, anything under doesn't. And that's pretty firm within the building code, and we can't waiver from that.
Yeah,
So
yep.
the original plans came in over that, which then required the sprinkler system, and then has been modified to get below that 2,000. So that's what we addressed. But 2,000 is, and it's no different than anybody else coming in and doing the same thing as far as 2,000 is that magic number. So, yep.
At the same time, I would note that, Councilmember Ingberson, you're right. We can't take action based on the sprinkler requirement. But we did, as a body, offer flexibility to this applicant on exterior building materials. And it's not lost on me that initial conversation about, do we want to be flexible and deviate from what is required by our city code occurred on the original site plan, which was over 2,000 square feet and had sprinklers. It wasn't until the last second that a change was made to avoid, a public safety mechanism. That's all that is all that is at stake here is a design plan was changed for the sole purpose of avoiding a safety mechanism. That's it. So I ask, I question whether this city should still provide the same flexibility with that in mind. Granted, to City Attorney Thompson's point, we probably should have asked that question before we approved the CIP, but that question still remains. I don't think we have any duty to provide flexibility when the end product is going to be a building that is fundamentally less safe for employees, for the animals there, and any public safety personnel that might have to respond to a call there.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. Chief Wold, is the 2,000 square feet something that is proven that it's going to be more safe by having a fire suppressant system? Or is the 2,000 square feet more arbitrary and a number that was just selected out of thin air?
Yeah, I don't know how 2,000 was. I mean, that was done in the building code, and people much smarter than me had figured that as the calculation. That seemed to be the appropriate size that would trip that mechanism where a sprinkler system would be required. That's standard across the board, whether it's this community or other communities, is that 2,000 threshold. And I'm sure there's statistics and data to support that, what the difference is if it's under that or over that. So I don't know why that was, but that's the number that was chosen.
So people smarter than you determined that a 2,000 square feet.
That's what he told me enough.
Well, I'm just reiterating what you said here. That 2,000 square feet it doesn't need it. And so if this business owner wants to design something that is just under that, I would have to side with Councilmember Willenberg and saying, hey, I would make that same decision too if there was a financial impact there. And to me, I am not. Again, I am not at all concerned, and I am in support of this business going in. So,
I have one more comment.
Please.
So, Mayor Zabel, you literally just 2 minutes ago accused the client and the developer of some pretty nefarious things. Based on what? Speaking with the developer and the client? Did they specifically tell you?
Based on an email I received from the applicant in December 2023 asking, how do I get around this fire sprinkler requirement? Is there a variance process? Because on the sole basis of cost.
I think you should make that public then, because you just did.
If you would like that, I can provide that to the city administrator.
I would.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even with that, if you want to call it, and Jim, maybe you can define legal loophole better than I can. But that's what this is. Loopholes are meant to be used. And, and again, it's above our authority here. And, I said at the outset, the spirit of the law may not have been, but that doesn't mean that, anything underhanded or wrong was done. And at this point, excuse me, I am not prepared to backtrack on this. And if there's council consensus to do that, so be it. We can certainly go back and have the conversations if there is, but I will be voting to move forward with this tonight.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Please.
I can't imagine being a small business owner and not having to come up with these types of decisions to save money, save money, when you're especially developing a brand-new building. I mean, there's a lot of cost involved to that, and they're providing a great service to our community and surrounding communities. And so I don't think that cutting cost, the way you presented it, is somehow nefarious. I don't. I'm sure there's thousands of small business owners that have had to make choices like this when there's establishing a business. And I don't think it's fair. The applicant is not here to defend themselves. That's all.
Councilmember Herr.
I assume that we've seen other development projects where they've made changes throughout the process. And I feel like this change would be in line with a developer who's looking to make a change in some of their plans to make it more accommodating or make the numbers financially make sense. So, I just, I am in support of moving forward, and I think, that's what I would be wanting to do here, so.
Councilmember Herr, if your question was, changes to project plans that remove a safety mechanism like a sprinkler system, I think the answer is no. Talking to City Administrator Volkers, we couldn't come up with a single example of a building in Oakdale a commercial building that would be under that 2,000 square feet or.
So let's rephrase
or
that question.
change to get under 2,000 square feet that requirement wouldn't apply to.
So how many buildings in the city of Oakdale was built under 2,000 square feet?
Commercial buildings?
Yes.
In recent memory? I literally cannot think of a single one.
This is the first one. And so a part of me feels like, hey, the stat you gave just now, it was based on the premise that there's 2,000 square feet or less commercial buildings being built all the time. And because there is no precedence for this. And so to me, I almost feel like that's a moot point in the sense that, hey, people smarter than us have made the determination that a building that is 2,000 square feet or more should require a sprinkler system, thus negating any issue with safety. Again, if I would like to see the data. If that's wrong, then let's bring forward the data and let's argue that point. And I would side with you. But I think because that 2,000 square feet is the threshold, and this applicant is putting in a building plan, making modifications, changes to be under that, I think they are just simply following the rules and what we have laid out to be the standard.
And
Councilmember Ingebrigtsen.
yeah, and one thing to add too, and Jim, if this wouldn't be legal for some reason, please let me know. But if this council is interested in having requiring all buildings have sprinkler systems, there's actually a pretty simple way to do that, and that would be not allow commercial buildings in Oakdale under 2,000 square feet. Yeah. If this is a concern for us, I mean, maybe we look at that going forward. That doesn't help us tonight, but.
I'm sure we can do that.
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but, that would be a simple solution if going forward, we want to avoid this. Maybe maybe now is not the time to bring that up, but I did, so.
Final comments? All right, let's call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? No. And consensus motion A is approved as presented. Next up is our opportunity to check in with advisory boards and commissions. First one that met was the Environmental Management Commission. They met on August 19th, 2024. I am the liaison for the group. The big ticket item on their agenda was they had a presentation from Resilient Cities and Communities, talking about different ways that cities can go about altering operations and programs that we can offer to make our city more environmentally friendly. The excellent news is we do most of them already. So it was a very quick presentation, but things are moving along, and that group has a very active rest of the year in terms of their workload. So the only other one that would have met was Parks and Rec, and their meeting was canceled. Word of bid, nothing. Staff reports, city attorney, Jim, anything?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, nothing specific to report tonight, but happy to answer questions.
Anybody have any questions for Jim? Let's look the other way and check in with our city administrator. Chris, anything for us tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I don't have anything to report.
All righty. Anybody have any questions for Chris? Council presentations. Council members, do you have any tonight? Let's look over here. Susie, Noah, anything? All right. Jake, Andy. All right.
Actually,
yep,
Mr.
Councilmember
Mayor,
Herr.
I do want to give a shout out to our Public Works employees. After the storm last night, just seeing just everyone, all hands on deck throughout the entire day today in our community and our bordering communities as well, just going out, just helping each other out. Thank you guys for picking up the slack, for helping out residents who have trees down in their yards, in the street. You guys really help make our place a place to live. So thank you to our Public Works team there.
Yep. Thank you, Noah. I think we all share in those sentiments. There was a lot to clean up. I'm not even sure if they're done. I mean, they're going to be cleaned up for a while. So maybe this is also a good time to plug. Residents can drop brush off at Public Works. That's available year-round. So if you have down brush in your yard, you can take it to 1900 Hadley. Is that the address? 1900 Hadley. There is a nominal fee associated with it, so just pop into the front office. They will direct you where to go. You can pay the fee there, but that is a good opportunity to get rid of your brush that may have come down in the last few, the day. I have a few updates from the city. City offices will be closed this Monday, September 2nd, in observance of Labor Day. City facilities will open at 8 a.m. On Tuesday, September 3rd. As always, emergency services are always available. Join us for Oakdale's annual Touch a Truck event on Tuesday, September 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. and in the City Hall parking lot. Kids can climb and explore public safety vehicles, snow plows, garbage trucks, street cleaners, semi-trucks, and more. This event is free, and ice cream treats will be provided. Concessions will also be available for purchase. A sensory tent will be available to provide a safe, non-stimulating space for children as well. One of the most popular events of the year, Family Fun Inflatables, will be held on Saturday, September 14th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Walton Park. This free event will feature inflatables for the whole family to explore, including a bounce castle, obstacle course, and a giant slide. There will also be a kids DJ and concessions available for purchase. Save the date for our citywide cleanup event on Saturday, September 21st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Oakdale Public Works. We are excited to bring back this event after almost 15 years. This is a great opportunity for Oakdale residents to get rid of unwanted items for a small fee. Please see the city website, oakdalemn.gov, for a full list of items being accepted, as well as the fee associated with those items. Finally, a good luck message to our students. They are back to school next week. So we wish them well in their studies in the year ahead, as well for the teachers. I always like to add a mention, there will be more kids on the streets. So if you are driving through our community, please slow down, please be observant. Safety, to and from school is everybody's top goal. So please keep an eye out for kids that might be getting on and off the bus or walking to school. Claims. Let's pay some bills. We have claims roster in front of us August 15th through August 27th in the amount of $1.8 million and change. Council members, are there any claims you'd like to pull or get more information on? If not, I will look for motion.
Make a motion to approve claims as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Final comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the bills are paid. At this time, we are going to go into closed session. This agenda item is to conduct a closed meeting with the city attorney to discuss matters protected by attorney-client privilege relating to threatened litigation over proposed amendments to the Oakdale Marketplace PUD. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to City Attorney Jim Thompson for a brief comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I requested that this item be put on the agenda tonight so that I can meet in a closed session with you to discuss confidential advice concerning the threatened litigation over the amendments to the Oakdale Market PUD. I've concluded that the need to give confidential advice outweighs the need to have the public present during that. And we will only be discussing legal advice relating to the threatened lawsuit. We will not be discussing any merits or the status of the actual application itself. So that's the purpose of my request.
Thank you, Jim. At this time, I will look for a motion to close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota State Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, to discuss matters protected by attorney-client privilege related to the threatened litigation of the proposed amendments to the Oakdale Marketplace PUD. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting of the Oakdale City Council is now closed.